3. So, hello guys, welcome back to Front Foot Official, and today we have Melinda Farrell ma'am to our show. We are really honored to have her today, and as you know, she is known for her famous show of the good, the bad, and the ridiculous with Bharat Sundaresan sir, who we all have also had him in the show previously. So, and I also have Archishman Bhaiya today with me. So, welcome Melinda ma'am to the show.
Thank you very, very much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
First, and welcome Melinda, and she's doing a terrific job, and I mean, like we all follow her, but the YouTube channel which he's doing, I mean, the show is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's funny, but at the same time, it gives us a lot of information. So that's the beauty. I mean, Arnab, you know that we need to learn something, but if we learn it in a funny way, so we remember it for a long time and we enjoy it for a long time. So that's what she's doing. And of course, she's like a journalist. So, and hope she's having some great news to break here in our channel. And that will be great for us. So hopefully not about Justin Langer. I mean, I heard that in the talkback show in the morning. But we still fingers crossed. But again, Arnab, jokes apart, you can start. And really, I'm really excited to talk to her. Yeah.
Same here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's very, very kind of you.
Yeah. So let us just start with talking about what India missed. What was the trick India missed?
Anna, before that, let us know who is Melinda Farrell. Yeah. That's my first question to each and every guest. Let us not go to that part. We'll discuss that, but let us know who is Melinda Farrell. I mean, how did she pick up journalism? How did she fell in love of this game called cricket? And please tell us about your life, your journey, and a bit about yourself, because that's what we do whenever we invite our guests, so that they can know, I mean, how much hard work you had put in to come wherever you are today.
Yeah, well, I mean, like a lot of Australians, I did love cricket, watching it in the summer. It's a little bit different, I think, in Australia. I think people tend to be, the difference between fans in Australia and fans in Indian cricket is quite specific, I think, and I've sort of developed this understanding over the years, is that fans in India are cricket fans, like they're cricket fans, yeah, and they're the people who are watching cricket and following cricket. In Australia, you tend to have people who like sport and they like watching cricket in summer. It's not the same as, like, you know, sometimes things will happen, series will happen on the other side of the world, and it doesn't really sort of break through the consciousness here in the same way as, you know, India fans will follow India when they're overseas a lot more. So I think I was more like most Australians in that I liked sport. I played a lot of sport. I liked watching sport on TV, and certainly, and in the summer, the sport was cricket. So that was very much how I just enjoyed it. And then I worked in sport, I worked in sports production, and then became a journalist. And I was kind of doing a lot of different sports, but in the summer would do as much cricket as possible. And that, it just sort of took over. I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed so many different aspects of it that it kind of took over. And I basically took a big risk. I was out of work. I'd taken a job and then left the job quite quickly because I wasn't enjoying it. And I knew that Cricinfo were looking for someone who could do video stuff primarily. And, you know, I pretty much like got the credit card and got on a plane and went over and scrounged as much work as I could in England, just so that I could be there when England played India, because I knew on day 3 of the fourth test, I think it was, that the editor of Cricinfo was going to be there. So I basically flew halfway around the world just so that I could be there, and he couldn't avoid me because he'd not answered all my emails. And so then within a day we shook hands and I had a full-time job at Cricinfo. So there you go. That was, it was. And then I spent the next few months basically paying off my credit card after going over there. So kind of risked a lot to get it, but it was worth it. And I was very, very lucky then to have, those years in traveling. And now I'm, senior cricket correspondent for Sporting News Australia, and that's a new challenge and something that's really expanding. My first opportunity to be, the senior correspondent. So that's quite a lot of fun. Just have to get out of this COVID rubbish so that I can actually get on the road again and then do my job properly. So I've had enough of it. I've had enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One more question that comes to my mind is that how did you plan that YouTube channel with Bharat sir? I mean, and the format. I mean, that is pretty fantastic and quite different from the others, what the people do. So
yeah, it's funny because before I got this job, so I was just doing a little bit of freelance work, and I was actually feeling really down. The pandemic, like a lot of people, my world had gone. I had all these great opportunities lined up to work on these different series, and then that all stopped, ground to a complete halt. And so I had some freelance work, and I wasn't feeling very confident at all, and it was a bit of a miserable time. A great person to have around when you're miserable is Bharat. It's very hard to be miserable around him. And I'd sort of said to him, I just don't know what to do. I've got a bit of freelance work, but I just don't know. And, he knew I was feeling down, and he was like, hey, come on, you're Mel Farrell. You just do something, and really encouraged me. And I started off the first episodes, I was just doing stuff on my own. And then I thought, what can I do? All right, I'll do the good, the bad, and the ugly. Right. So we'll go. And then after doing that a couple of times, I was like, it's a bit too negative because you've got bad and ugly. What can I do? And then I just thought, I'll make it good, bad, and ridiculous, because there's so much ridiculous stuff that happens in cricket. And so I sort of did some on my own. And then I started sort of saying, could someone do it with me? And I had a few different people do that with me. And Bharat was sort of like my go-to, especially if there was no one else there. Don't tell him that. But it was like, they've let me down. Can you come and do it? And, it just worked. And we obviously, we're really good friends. We share a similar sense of humor. We were just having a lot of fun with it. So we essentially just decided to keep it going with the two of us. So that's really how it evolved. And it is. It's a lot of fun. And we really love the fact that it's interactive as well, that people brilliant cricket fans on Twitter are really smart and funny, and they know their sport really well. They probably know more about it than me, most of them. So it's kind of nice to have that and involvement, and we get some really funny nominations and really smart nominations as well. So it's good. And I think people just like that they feel part of our conversation then, I think, as well. And I think that's really fun. And, you talk about being funny and everything else. Man, at the end of the day, it is just a sport. You've got to be able to laugh at it. There's so much serious stuff going in the world that's depressing. Wow, let's have a bit of fun with it.
Just like the COVID.
Yeah. Exactly. You got it.
Okay, and now moving on, the last question before Arnab goes and asks is critical cricketing questions. I mean, Arnab is a genius on that. Okay, I mean, you have interviewed many cricketers, right? And my question is, tell us the moments like you are nervous for, I am going to interview such a legendary cricketer, or I'm going to have fun with this cricketer while talking. So tell us your experiences on that, because I guess I have seen that interview with Rishabh Pant, if I'm not wrong.
That was when he was 18. That was in Delhi, and I came away. It was, it was really funny. So, and I didn't know. I knew that he made those really big scores in the Ranji Trophy, and so there was obviously a lot of buzz about him, and that he was there at Delhi. And anyway, I didn't really know much else about him, except he was, a young, talented batter that people were excited about. And we did the interview, and I was just laughing. I said to the others, because he was just really cheeky, but in a really fun way. And I came away and I was like, how can he only be 18? You know, I've interviewed teenagers before, and it's often difficult to get good answers out of them, whatever. And I said, he's like the most confident 18-year-old I think I have ever met. And he was just really good. You know, he was funny and cheeky, and but not in a disrespectful way, just in a really nice way. And it was good fun. So I enjoyed that. And you know, it's that thing. I can't help it. But if I think someone's nice and I like them just personally or whatever, I really enjoy seeing them do well. So I was possibly a little bit biased towards really hoping that he would do well, because I just, you know, I thought he was fun. And every time I see him, you know, we always say hi, and he's never lost that just sort of real cheeky charm, personality that's quite fun. And I really like that. I really like that about him. And you see that, you know, in his chatter behind the stumps and everything, you can see that he is cheeky and sort of, you know, a funny person and quite a bright personality. So that was a really good one. I don't remember specifically being particularly nervous because someone was a big star or something. Yeah. I remember early on interviewing some of the West Indies players and thinking this is of the great West Indies players, which was really cool. But one of them, ones that I wanted to get right, is I did a big piece on Owen Morgan before the 2019 World Cup for ESPN Cricinfo, and it was my first big read that I'd done, and so that was quite a big deal to me. And we did it over a series of, I was here in Australia, he was in England. And so it was morning there, he'd have a cup of tea. I was here, I think I had a glass of wine, and we chatted. I think in the end, you know, we chatted for, I might've been like 3 hours over a series of calls. So that's a serious interview. But I really enjoyed it. It was a really good process. And for someone who I had used to find a bit intimidating as a person earlier on in his captaincy, I found him brilliant. And my opinion about him had changed before that interview, because I got to speak to him so quite a few times and realized that my perception of him was not really right, which was good before we came to do that interview. And so that was possibly one of the most rewarding interviews I've ever done, because we just talked about everything, and there was no, you know, often you're going, how much can I cram into 5 minutes? And for that, it wasn't. And so in the end, it worked out really well for me, because I put so much heart and soul into this piece, and he ended up lifting the trophy, although, you know, some people might feel that New Zealand were robbed. But yeah, so that was a really good process, and I really enjoyed that whole sort of piece, really, from start to finish.
Yeah.
Okay, Anna.
Yeah. So, ma'am, my first question on the cricket here is like, the India-England series is right now going on, and like the comebacks, you have witnessed quite a lot of comebacks while watching cricket yourself, because like in 2021 only you witnessed a comeback in front of your eyes against the Australians when India did it. Now India won the second test.
Arnab, let me stop you. I guess you ask the same question to each and every Australian who comes to us. So
he just wants to remind everybody about that series. Why wouldn't you? It was brilliant. It's possibly, it's the greatest series I've ever covered. As a series, absolutely the best series I've ever covered. So you bring it up to everyone. Remind everyone.
Yeah, so I was just asking, like, the comeback which India did against Australia, and now England are doing a sort of a comeback because they lost the second test badly. Now they won the third test brilliantly, and India lost badly. So what are you expecting in the fourth test? Is it going to be a draw which levels the series, because it's then sort of a tiebreaker in the last, sort of a decider in the last game? Or do you expect some team to again bounce back? Or do you expect England to continue their winning streak? Like, which sort of a comeback or a equal thing, which sort of the way is the game going in the next game?
Well, if I could tell you that, I'd tell you the lotto numbers as well, and we'd all be rich. We'd all be very, very rich. We've spoken about this before, this idea of momentum going one way or the other, and I don't subscribe to that at all. I think you've got two teams who can make mistakes, who can play really well, and it just comes down to who does the best of that on the day. I mean, the one thing is you do have one. It's funny in a series. I was thinking about this. You know, in the Ashes in England, in that 2019 Ashes, Australia kind of won that on the back of Steve Smith's brilliant form and a bit with Marnus Labuschagne as well, and a really good bowling attack. And that can happen if you've got a good bowling attack at times. If you've got one batter who's just on a special run, you can kind of see that happening. And Virat Kohli has done that himself before. You saw him do it in Australia. I've seen him. You've seen Pujara do that as well. So the Joe Root purple patch is really interesting to me because it's just so phenomenally good at the moment. We're only a bit over halfway through the year, and if he plays the rest of the test matches this year, Lord knows what kind of records he could break. So when you see a batter on that in that kind of special form, that's really good. Overall, I would tend to think that India is a stronger side, but the English conditions are real levelers when they're doing it right. And I'll be interested to see how David Malan goes as well. I think in the end that was a good choice, certainly for this game. It was quite a positive start from him. So there's just still so much that's unknown. Those conditions at the Oval where might be a bit more spin friendly, and perhaps at Old Trafford too, and might end up favouring India a bit more. So at the moment, I think it's pretty evenly. I sort of have that gut feeling that maybe India might be stronger, but they've got some issues to sort out with their batting and then with that really long tail. So. It's hard. I mean, pick one. Give me a dartboard and I'll throw darts at it and, tell you more. But what is great for me and what I'm just thrilled about is it will go down to Old Trafford. And I love a test series that goes down to the last game. And there could well be some good twists and turns left in this one. It's a really interesting series.
Yeah.
Okay, one question that comes to my mind, you spoke about that Indian batting lineup. Don't you think Pujara and Rahane especially, when they know that they are not that good players in T20, and they also know that they can't be in the IPL 11 of their respective teams. So do you think they should have played in that county season, which Pujara plays, and so is Rahane? So that it could have helped them, especially keeping on the eye that the World Test Championship and the England series is going to follow. Because that question comes to my mind, and Pujara also knows that from it that he is not going to be in the playing 11 of CSK. It was just that he did some heroics in, not some heroics, it was great, of course, what he did in Australia, but that was in the series. So it was like a gift to him, but the gift is not working well currently. Of course, he played well in the last game. But do you think that could have been a better choice for Pujara and Rahane to play in the county? And also in the Ranji Trophy?
I have this dream, you see, and I'm not going to let you take it away from me. I'm just waiting for the day. There's going to be a day when Pujara plays in an IPL match and he ends up making 100 off 30 balls. He's going to freak out, and it's going to freak everybody in the world of cricket out. And it's my dream. I just want to see Pujara go berserk just once, just to really play with everyone's heads. That would be the best thing I think I've ever seen in cricket. But look, it's really hard to try and say players should do certain things with their career. They've got short careers, they don't last very long, and they have to make best decisions for them financially as well as cricket-wise, and what they want to do, maybe the experience of being in the IPL. So especially at the moment with COVID putting so much pressure on people, I don't begrudge players really making any decisions, whether it's sitting out a series to be with their family, deciding to play one thing over another. maybe wanting to be in their own country rather than being abroad. So I'm like, just decide what's best for you, mate, because I wouldn't like someone coming and telling me what I should do with my career, what decisions I should make. So that I guess that's kind of up for them. But Pujara, he did make 90. And also that in the previous match, the time spent at the crease, really put a lot of miles in the legs of the opposition bowlers. And that's something that I don't think is always necessarily appreciated enough. It can be the work that Pujara does, and to an extent Rahane at times, in matches like that. And it's a bit like Rishabh Pant going, crazy. Everyone loves it when it works. They don't when it doesn't work. But what sometimes they do that isn't always appreciated is they make it easier for the likes of Rishabh Pant to come in afterwards. Because by that stage, the bowlers have bowled so many overs and they're mentally fatigued because they can't for the life of them remove Pujara, that they're mentally and physically tired by the time you get someone like Rishabh coming in, or maybe Bumrah and Shami when they're in the mood. So sometimes I don't think that's always appreciated by people when it comes to players like Pujara especially, and a little bit also Rahane as well. But that's what we all love to do, don't we? We love to analyze and decide, and we can be the bosses or whatever of what it is. But I do think that sometimes they can be a bit underappreciated, perhaps.
Yeah.
So, ma'am,
that happens mostly in India, if I'm not wrong. Not in other countries, but Indians are a bit emotional. Like they make them heroes in one day, and next day they just Arnab.
Yeah. So, ma'am, my final question here too is, before wrapping up the show, like, what will be your playing 11s for both the teams? Because
Arnab, add on to that the India versus Australia Women's Series. That is going to be a great contest. So please add on to that, because we have got Mel. And she knows a lot.
Yeah. So as Ajisman we have said, also add on to what are you expecting in the India versus Australia Women's Series, along with your playing 11s for both the sides in the upcoming Test match.
Well, for playing 11 first, I would love to see Ashwin play, especially if it does look like the pitches at the Oval and Old Trafford would, and I see probably that Ishant Sharma might be the one to miss out. I'm not sure that the only one. Look, if they decide to bring in someone like Vihari for Rahane, perhaps, but I'm not as bothered about that. Well, for England, we know that Jos Buttler is going to be missing out on this because of his family reasons, which is very important. So he won't be there, and you imagine Johnny Bairstow taking up the gloves. So what happens there? And then you also have possibly Tom Curran maybe missing out. Will Jimmy be rested?
Sam Curran.
Sorry, Sam Curran. I got them wrong. Thank you for picking me up. Yes, that's what I meant. Sam and Tom. Are they actually the same? Have you ever seen them in the same room at the same time? Just saying. But he probably was the weakest link, I think, in that bowling. If Wood is fit enough, does he come back? Anderson, should they rest him? Wokes could be another one as well. So England's a bit more amorphous. They've got force change in Jos Buttler, but then you've got the longevity of those bowlers. And I hate it when people will bring up any series in the future, but now you do want to manage the fitness of those bowlers as well, because there's a lot of tests back to back at the moment.
Yeah, and ma'am, adding upon Okay,
really excited. We finally know when it's going to happen. So slightly later. In Australia, it's been the biggest nightmare. It hasn't been getting the Indian women's team in. It's been getting the Australian players who are in New South Wales and Victoria out, because all the borders are shut. Australia is like a bunch of different countries at the moment, and all the borders are shut. So they've had to get special exemptions. They were supposed to go from Sydney to Melbourne to Perth to Sydney. No way was that going to happen because of the border closures. So they've managed to finally get dispensation exemptions to fly those players to Queensland. So that's where the India players will fly into. So they won't be playing at the Gabba. They'll be playing on the Gold Coast and up at Mackay, which is up near the Great Barrier Reef. So beautiful part of the world. I'm sure the Indian players are going to love being up there. And I'm just so excited for that. India have had a really good lead into that. They had a hard competitive series in England. A lot of them were playing their first ever test match as well.
Yeah.
And Australia haven't sort of played since earlier in the year, but obviously, you know, they're the favourites at home, number one sort of team in the world. I'm super excited about seeing some of the Indian players play out here. You know, I love watching Shafali Verma. I know a lot of people talk about her. Smriti Mandana, I've loved watching her since I first saw her. I think it was in 2014 in England. But I'm really excited to see how Shafali Verma goes against pace. Yeah. Some incredibly talented young fast bowlers coming into the Australian side. They don't have Megan Shute, who's been there, who's led the bowling attack, a strike bowler, swing bowler. They don't have Jess Jonathan, one of their most experienced spinning all-rounders. So, you know, instead they've got these young, quick bowlers coming through, the likes of Taylor Fleming and Darcy Brown. And so for me, it's going to be a bit of a new look Australian team in some ways. And I want to see how Shafali Verma goes against that pace. I think could be great contest in so those short form matches to see that happen. I want to see a sort of recreation of the Catherine Brunt Shafali Verma battle. That was absolutely enthralling in England. So let's see if that happens there. And you know, I'm disappointed they won't be playing at the Wacker for the test match. It's such a good pitch. So I hope they get a great pitch for when they play the test matches. But I'm really looking forward to the series. I'm just devastated because I'm supposed to be there and I can't cross the border to get there. So that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, it's really exciting. Let's get behind it and show it some love, that series.
Yeah, so thanks for coming, Melinda ma'am, to the show today. It was a pleasure talking to you. And ma'am, just your final words today, then we'll wrap up the show.
I want to thank you both very, very much for having me on, and I think you've got a bright future as a host there, and I hope your YouTube channel goes really well.
Thank you, Melinda ma'am. Till then, we'll meet you all in the next video. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Also, subscribe to Melinda ma'am's channel. And as you all know, she is famous for that Good, the Bad, and the Ridiculous show. So you can always watch her there. So till then, we'll meet you in the next video. So goodbye, guys, and peace.